Well, we can all breathe a little bit. The day is finally here. Barcelona taking on PSG, two powerhouses that have met a couple times before. Matchup is tied, 5 wins, 4 draws, 5 losses, 6 total knockout stage ties. Each team is 3 wins, 3 losses, and PSG won the last 2 knockout stage ties on aggregate. It all goes down at 3 p.m. today on Paramount Plus. Now, Barcelona's Pedri spoke to the media ahead of this matchup yesterday, and he emphasized that the club is using their Champions League loss to PSG from 2024 as a motivation for this match.
Bueno, creo que todos los que somos del Barça, hubo un momento que nos quedamos un poquito ahí a un paso de pasar, que bueno, fue un partido complicado y bueno, queremos darle esa revancha. Creo que el fútbol siempre tiene revancha. Al siguiente año puedes intentar la Champions o lo que vayas perdiendo o te dejes atrás y está claro que todo el mundo quiere jugar esos partidos, sobre todo porque bueno, es uno de los mejores equipos del mundo y es los partidos que más disfruta.
Now here's a look at what Mundo Deportivo had to say. Desafío entre titanes.
A challenge between titans.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I like this. Montjuic mide a 2 equipos de autor con fútbol ofensivo. Montjuic pairs together 2 teams with an offensive vocation. Valiente y máximos candidatos al título. Valiant and maximum candidates to the title.
Yeah.
Barça and the champion PSG.
And Montjuic is the one that's hosting this game because the Camp Nou still isn't available. We talked a little bit yesterday, Nico, with Clive about this, but what's the impact of that? I mean, you have PSG coming over to you. You want to be able to play in your true home stadium.
Sure, but Montjuic was their true home stadium all of last season. I'm just glad that they're not playing at their training complex in the 8,000-person stadium. They've been kind of like juggling Montjuic this season because in theory they weren't going to play there. All season long, and then suddenly, like, Montjuic has their own plans too. There's concerts and stuff like that they need to navigate around. So the fact that they get it, like, great, they're gonna fill it up. It's a big stadium. It's not like it's a rinky-dink, like something that can just throw away. It's a pretty historic, iconic stadium. So I don't know if that's gonna play too much of a factor tonight.
Okay, well, what Clive also did say is that the fact that there's so many injuries for both teams, this is kind of like a watered-down version of this matchup between Barca and PSG. How much do the injuries play into this matchup, Tom?
Injuries is the main talking point going into this game because you cannot ignore it given all of these wonderful, wonderful key players that we all hope all of these players, when we get to the business end of the Champions League, are fit and available. And if there's going to be a knockout round tie between these 2 teams, and again, these are 2 of the favorites for this competition, we do hope to see all of these names. And then when we're previewing that game here on Morning Footy, we'll say, well, whatever the result was in October, all of these players were missing. It's a whole new game. So it's unfortunate, though. There's going to be a ton of talent on display on both sides. It's great that Lamine Yamal is going to be back, and PSG has a really deep squad as well. But you will be lacking something with some of these really key players missing.
Absolutely. And Luis Enrique spoke about this, and he said we can either make excuses or we can play the game and we can win and we can go out and do what we want. He also was very honest in saying, like, I have a lot of depth on my roster. I have the finances at this club to bring in players that I need and the depth. So in terms of PSG and the absences they have, they're really big. It's down the spine. I think that to me is one of the most influential things. It's some of these attacking pieces in Dembélé and Doué and what they're able to do in their attacking end. They still have depth, but when you lack some of the question marks centrally, right, with Neves being out, Vitinha question mark as well in this game. But
yeah, they're back in the squad, but they've been coming off of injuries, right? They're still question marks.
They're still question marks, and that to me it's just provides a different wrinkle as to how this game is going to play out.
Doué, Kvaratskhelia, Dembélé, that's the 3 that started in the final.
Exactly.
The 3 that was so good for the large majority of last season. And then your captain, Marquinhos. It is going to be a different PSG squad, and we've been kind of building this matchup to be like the tell-all, be-all match for PSG and Barcelona. Just not really. Like, I don't want to play it down, guys. Like, watch the game anyway. It's Barca PSG.
It's going to be a great game, but it's
it's not going to have the same flavor as like a potential final would have had between Barcelona and PSG.
So how much are you going to take away from this game, regardless of how it goes? How much are you going to take away from it, knowing that there's a lot missing from both sides?
Unless we see patterns like we're looking at the Liverpool, right? There's a pattern of Liverpool. I think this league phase the victories aren't as great as we make them out to see, and the defeats aren't that bad, because you have, from here on out, you have 6 more games to kind of correct your situation. So a loss shouldn't bring you down like it used to in the group stage, where there was less games to correct and you would face that same team again. So there's a different dynamic at play here. But it is what it is.
I feel for all of these players that are missing the game, but especially Ousmane Dembélé. I know, I'm sure he's just itching to get into this match, Nico.
Yeah, especially just because he won the Ballon d'Or against Lamine Yamal. It feels like it would have been a proper response to everything that happened a week and a half ago at the Ballon d'Or ceremony.
Dembélé should, if he's traveling, hopefully he's there, I'd assume so. I hope that he brings the Ballon d'Or just so Lamine Yamal can bring his little speaker that he said was better than the Ballon d'Or.
Oh my goodness, you had to go there, Tom. All right. Well, let's take a look at how these two teams are going to be lining up against each other, especially with all the absences that we've touched on. Lisa, I'm going to have you walk through one of the teams here. Who are you taking on, Barcelona or PSG?
Yeah, I'll take on Barcelona. I think because the biggest absence is Rafinha and his absence. When he went out against Oviedo, 65th minute, it was Robert Lewandowski who came into that match. So this starting lineup, I'm not surprised at. With the absences that Barcelona face, I think the biggest positive that they have is that Lamine Yamal is back, and he is likely to start this game. He will start this game. The influence that he makes coming in just over a half hour of play at the weekend, and he gets an assist in that opening minute. His influence is immediate. So this is the front three with Marcus Rashford, Robert Lewandowski, and Lamine Yamal. But I'm more intrigued about how the central midfield is going to work for Barcelona, because with Pedri and Frankie de Jong, they have to work so well together, and they have at moments. I mean, Pedri speaks for himself in his play, what he's able to do, how he's able to influence the game so consistently. I'm concerned about Dani Olmo, and he's been hot and cold. He's had really great moments of attacking prowess and being creative, combining with the front runners, but then he's also had some really big mental lapses. So a lot of pressure is going to fall on that central trio and being able to support the front runners, especially without Rafinha in that front line.
I think there's a very different tone to PSG when Gonzalo Ramos plays as opposed to Ousmane Dembélé. Tactically, it's different because Ramos isn't a get in behind type of forward. I mean, for God's sake, Ousmane Dembélé was a winger his whole career. He turned into a false 9, but he's still trying to beat that back line. And Barcelona, what they provide, it's like they entice it. Yeah, come beat us. Try to beat this offside trap. So with Ramos, Araujo is going to have different homework to deal with, right? He's a target man, Gonzalo Ramos, and he's gonna kind of test Araujo, who I have more questions about. I think he's the weaker point in this back line. He's far from the best form of his career. So it's baiting this. Hakimi getting high, beating Balde, who's kind of just come back from injury. Mendes getting high. So I wonder how this is all gonna play out with Ramos. Again, I go back to Rayo Vallecano in that one game that Barcelona drew this season. I mentioned it last time out. Having that guy just blatantly offside, and with Hakimi and Mendes, the way that they get up the pitch, if they can beat that runner, they'll just have a 9 to slot the ball in. So it's a big test for a guy, Gonzalo Ramos, that's going to have to beat that back line.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for PSG, that's a great point. There's not going to be that same interchangeability with Ramos and the wingers the same way that you can with Dembélé, and the same kind of problems that he will pose. Ramos will occupy center backs. Perhaps they'll use some kind of offsides to be the first pass over when you break the offside trap. Maybe not. I think he'll be occupying some of those center backs. A couple notes. Neves trained fully this week, while Vitinha exited training early. So that's kind of the status there. We'll see when the lineups come out today. But what is most important are these two world-class fullbacks, because like you said, Barcelona are going to play that high line that they have been so good at. They've caught the opposition team's offsides more than anybody in Europe or in the top 5 leagues. Mendes and Hakimi are the ones that when you step up, the runners from deep. That is going to be the crucial battle in this game, because if they're getting past that offside trap, they're in on goal and they're going to have a ton of goal-scoring opportunities. But the other side of that, when Nuno Mendes is all the way up, Lamine Yamal has all of this space, and it's going to be very important for Beraldo and Neves to try to fill the space and try to contain Lamine Yamal a little bit the best you can. So that is the biggest battle for me. Lamine Yamal versus Mendes. Mendes has played Yamal well in their matches against each other, but Lamine Yamal is one of the best players in the world. It's tough to keep him bottled up.
It feels like it's going to be a do I go, you go, like this constant joust between the wide players in this game. I do think a subplot is Lucas Chevalier. Lucas Chevalier has not been good. like period. Like they win games, sure they win games, but when he's called upon to make that one save against Marseille, disaster. The goal was his fault, right? You get rid of Donnarumma, and suddenly in the Super Cup, in that game against Marseille, there's been questions asked about your goalkeeper. Szczesny is also the backup goalkeeper for PSG, for Barcelona. Now, he was a starter for most of last season, but the guy that you went out and got is injured. Your backup goalkeeper, your backup to the backup, is Diego Cochin, a U.S. Youth International. He was with the men's national team at the U20 World Cup. So just keep an eye out for the goalkeepers.
So you're saying goals, Nico?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this matchup, like, take the over 100%.
I sure hope so.
How can you
Yeah.
not?
What are you predicting for this game?
I think Barcelona's going to win this, just given the fact that PSG is missing a lot of guys.